Is the new Walmart exclusive Marvel Legends Venom worth tracking down? More importantly, how does it compare to this Amazon exclusive 3-pack version? Stick around and find out. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation. Starting with the packaging, and once again Venom is on that Toy Biz style retro card. We previously saw that with the animated series version. No red and blue lighting on the artwork this time though. There is, however, an 85-year sticker. Sticker? We don't even know her! Flipping around, we see a little graphic showing how to swap the hands and head, as well as a bio. In my review of this guy, I talked about how it was cool to have a cel-shaded Venom that recreated that animated series look, but this feels more like that original figure scaled up to modern standards. For packaging, I'm giving Venom 5 points. Moving on to presentation, and this Venom is 7 1/8 inches, or 18 centimeters. Strictly speaking, this is the third time we've looked at some version of this Venom, and the second time on a retro card, which is why this video isn't a straight up versus and really more of a general compare and contrast. The original base body came from Omega Red, hence the holes in the animated version shoulders, and the tendrils plugging up those holes on the Amazon version. This new Walmart Venom, however, benefits from a completely new sculpted torso. And yes, I know when I say Walmart Venom, you kinda picture something a bit closer to this. Since it is an all-new torso, we no longer have any holes to deal with. Additionally, this one has a diaphragm joint and a reverse ab crunch, but that's more of a conversation for Posability, similar to the other versions, and they use that 3D paint for the logo. This time, however, the logo on the back is a bit broader. Otherwise, the arms and legs are the same. I will say those trapezoids on the back of his hand are a bit smaller this time, leastways as compared to the previous version. Otherwise, the standard head on this version is the alternate head that came with the Amazon 3-pack. The eyes on the new version are a straight glossy white, whereas the Amazon one had a more pearlized finish. But I do like that the tongue on the new version is actually pink, as opposed to the darker maroon of the Amazon. Additionally, the teeth have been given a bit more individual attention. At this point, I feel like the only thing they could really do to improve on this Venom would be to make him pinless. Even so, and for presentation, I'm giving this Venom 5 points. Moving on to Posability, and I do feel like it's fair to make this section a more direct comparison between the two. From the top, in the 3-pack version's head is on a ball joint and a disc swivel, whereas the torso of the new version's been given a dumbbell. Unfortunately, this means that the new figure can barely look up, though they seem to be able to look about the same amount down, and even tilt seems pretty equivalent, so really this is just a downgrade. For the courageous though, and a bit of dremeling back here would make all the difference. Moving down, in Eddie's arm raise is the same, as of course are the bicep swivels, double jointed elbows, and swivel hinge wrists. But now we get to the new torso, and the first thing we have to look at is the butterfly joints. Flexing forward in the reach is the same it seems with reaching back. So then really what it comes down to is the difference between the ab crunch and the waist swivel and the diaphragm joint and reverse ab crunch. Both figures can arch back this far, which is exactly the same, and they can hunch forward this far, which is exactly the same. The only difference is that while the 3-pack version can merely swivel side to side, the new one swivels up here, keeping the waist from breaking up, and can tilt side to side or twist like so. Admittedly, it does make certain poses look a bit more natural. Otherwise, and below the waist, there is no difference whatsoever. Venom can kick this high, but only split this wide. It does have thigh cut, as well as double jointed knees, and then all the way at the bottom he has ankles that can hinge and pivot. Admittedly, I'm a bit conflicted. I acknowledge that the diaphragm does add a little something, but I can't say that what it adds is worth the sacrifice of being able to look up, especially when poses like this are one of my favorite things about the Amazon version. If this was a traditional versus, I think I might give it to Amazon, as is, and as much as I like the diaphragm, for Posability, I'm giving this Venom 4 points. Moving on to playability, and admittedly this Venom doesn't have a lot of accessories, but he does have it where it counts. We've been looking at these claw hands throughout the video, but appropriately he also comes with a pair of fists. Just like the regular hands, and they have the white trapezoids on the back, the most important accessory, however, is this alternate head. I've seen people online refer to this as a Todd McFarlane style head, and I totally get it. Whipping out the comic, and it's pretty spot on. Just a simple, demented grin of razor razor-sharp teeth. Of course, this alternate Amazon head is pretty spiffy. So spiffy, in fact, that, as we'll see in price, it's hard to find a Venom on eBay that still has it. But playability is more than swappable heads, and referencing the next category, it's also about how well your figure plays with others. I'm going to keep things simple this time and focus on Spider-Man and Carnage. Starting with his offspring, and I really like the simplicity of the painted swirls on this one, but it's really hard to argue against the meticulous sculpted details of absolute carnage. Switching over to Spidey, and here we have the original Hobgoblin Wave Pizza version. Next up, and for a more recent addition to my collection, and here's the Space Venom Wave Ultimate Spider-Man. For a fellow retro card rocker though, and here's this guy. But if you're gonna marry yourself to one Marvel Legends Spider-Man, it's hard to beat Renew Your Vows. Unless of course you prefer this version from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. All that said though, and for what might just be the best Spider-Man, and here's the comic style Mafex. But for a relative scale comparison, here's the second edition Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man. And as always, here's Venom with Stealth Iron Man. You know, you say as always, but then you cut me out of Batman Reborn.
Do you need a minute? I understand completely. I bicker with my host all the time.
We don't bicker.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, do you need a minute? But I know what you're thinking. Jason, where are all the other Venom figures? Well, I hope you don't mind, but I thought I'd save those for some head swaps. First up is the Absorbing Man Wave version, which also has a Todd McFarlane style head. Here's how the new one looks on that body. Obviously it's better detail, but it's also a bit big, so it makes the body look smaller. By contrast, the Absorbing Man Wave version being smaller makes this body look bigger. Absorbing Man also has this alternate, more traditional head you could swap out as well. Next up is the Monster Venom Wave version, which is basically the same except for the paint job, the neck piece, and the head. In case you missed my previous Venom head swap video, I'll link to that at the end, but for now, here's how this would look. Most importantly, I wanted to see how the Monster Wave Eddie Brock head would look on this body. I do think we need an update with a better paint job, but for now, I'm pretty happy with this. Speaking of Monster Venom, here's the deluxe single carded version. I'm not sure that head swaps with this guy make sense, but hey, who am I to judge? Next up is the movie version. The Tom Hardy heads on this body aren't bad. A little smaller, but I like the look. Honestly, with the exception of not having the logo, the movie design is pretty solid. That said, the slightly more comic booky head on the movie body is even better, even if it isn't that much different. But I have to say the McFarlane head looks really good here. There's actually a video of Todd redrawing the movie version to look more like his design, and this kind of reminds me of that. In a similar vein, and here we have the King in Black. This body is just the movie version with a logo, and while I have shown you this head on it before, I do really like it. That said, the McFarlane head looks really good. It might not have the same texture, but it all blends together. That figure came with its own smiling head, which looks really good on this body. Kind of reminds me of the Izzes from the Max. I really like the open mouth head. This is actually closer to my mental image of Venom, and to be honest, I kinda like it a bit better than the head that comes with this figure. Lastly, and speaking of heads that come with this figure, we might as well look at the head that comes with, well, this figure. Specifically, this one. It's one of my favorite Venom heads ever made. I'm not saying it's worth getting the 3-pack just for this head, but once again, I am saying I wish that they would give us a full-on Eddie Brock head in this style. In terms of accessories, the only thing that would have made this figure any better would have been an extra Eddie Brock head. Otherwise, and for playability, I'm giving Venom 5 points. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price, and herein lies the tragedy. Retail on this figure is only $24.99, but it's a Walmart exclusive and a CollectorCon exclusive. As of this recording, you can't get him for retail online, and I have no idea if he's going to be in stores. On the aftermarket, he's currently averaging for about $50. That said, if you're okay with the Amazon version, you can get him on eBay for about $40, with a catch. You ain't getting this head. You can get him with this head and his alternate fists, but if you want him complete, that's going to set you back anywhere from $80 to $100. And that's not counting the rest of the 3-pack. These are some of the best Venom figures ever made, and I really hope Hasbro makes it right. A wide release with all 3 heads, and maybe a new Eddie Brock, would go a long way to make a lot of collectors who missed out very happy. As is, and based only on availability, for price I'm giving this Venom 3 points, averaging out to a final total of 4.4 out of 5. For more Venom videos, including that head swap one, check out one of these, and until next time, play nice and have fun.